Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to another Monday stream. Yeah, sorry about yesterday. I was just getting so mentally tired I couldn't focus on the reading. I'm thinking about moving Slow Down Sunday to an earlier time, maybe 5:30 or 4:30. You guys let me know what time you think would be better. I'll post a update on it on my Twitter, or X. I need to stop calling it Twitter, but I can't help it. Twitter just sounds so much better than X. I still can't believe Elon changed that. Bad Elon. Very bad mistake. Because Twitter just works so much better. Anyway, putting on some lotion. Even though it is technically spring, the weather here is still a little wonky. But anyways, you guys voted on X. And today we are going to discuss the king of the 90s himself, Rob Liefeld. Now, for those of you who are wondering why I'm calling him the king of the 90s, it's because when it comes to the style of 90s artwork, or just 90s era comic books, he is usually the first face that comes to mind with that. Right next to Todd McFarlane, though I think Liefeld was a little higher on the totem pole just because I think his art had that, like, struck people in a very unique way back then. Because it was edgy, it was dynamic, it had a lot of buckles, the feet looked weird, but... So, it's like whenever you hear 90s comics, Liefeld is the one you'll more likely think about, even though there were plenty of good artists that were there in the 90s. Alright, so, just like our other times, we're going to quickly go through Mr. Liefeld's Wikipedia page before moving on to looking at some of his art and have some of the interviews he's done. So, alright, Rob Liefeld. Born October 3rd, 1967, and he is still alive. I don't know why I said it like that. Alright, is an American comic book creator. A prominent writer and artist in the 90s, he is known for co-creating the character Cable with writer Louise Simpson, and character Deadpool with writer Fabian Nicieza? Alright, so in the early 90s, Liefeld gained popularity due to his work on Marvel Comics, New Mutants, and later X-Force. In 1992, he and several other popular Marvel illustrators left the company to found Image Comics, which started a wave of comic books owned by their creators rather than by publishers. First book published by Image Comics was Liefeld's Youngblood #1. Liefeld has been called one of the most controversial figures in the comic industry for his drawing skills, business practices, and controversial comics. Yeah, lots of people have some mixed feelings about Mr. Liefeld for several reasons. Some of them are valid, some of them not so much, but we're gonna get into that. So instead of skipping over the early life thing, we'll just go ahead and read it because it doesn't look like it's gonna be that. Yeah, it's not going to be that bad. Alright. Liefeld was born, we saw that earlier, in Fullerton, California, the younger child of a Baptist minister. Okay, that I did not expect. And part-time secretary. He and his sister, 7 years his senior, grew up in Anaheim, California. Liefeld's love of comics began as a child, which led early on to his decision to become a professional professional artist, a practice that began with his tracing artwork from comic books. As a high school student, he took basic fundamental art courses and attended comic book conventions at the nearby Disneyland Hotel, where he met creators such as George Perez, John Romita Jr., Jim Shooter, Bob Layton, Mike Zeck, and Marv Wolfman. Liefeld cites Perez along with John Byrne and Frank Miller as major influences. He has also noted how the influences of Arthur Adams is visible in his art. All right. So early career. Here we go. And this one looks like it's going to be a bit on the longer side. So, after graduating from high school, Liefeld took life drawing classes, the nudie classes, at a local junior college, working odd jobs for about a year, including as a pizza delivery man and construction worker. While practicing his artwork, samples of which he sent to small business publishers, as he was too intimidated to send them to the big two companies of Marvel Comics and DC Comics. Among the editors, he sent art samples around 1985 to Gary Carlson of Megaton Comics. Ugh, that sentence is awkwardly worded. Carlson was working on Megaton number 4 and was looking for replacements for artists who had moved on to bigger projects. Liefeld's submission packet consisted mostly of pinups of DC Comics characters like the Teen Titans and Legion of Superheroes, as well as some sketches of Megaton characters. Although Carlson thought Liefeld's depiction of his characters was not sufficiently accurate and exhibited what Carlson characterized as some goofy anatomy. Oh boy. Didn't think it would come that quickly. He found Liefeld's storytelling to be clear, and his rendering style evocative of the influence of artist George Perez. Although Carlson liked Liefeld's work overall, he felt the young artist was not ready for professional work. Weeks later, he received another set of samples that were an improvement, and later still a 4-page Berserker story, not to be confused with the Marvel or Top Cow characters of the same name, all with pinups of the Megaton characters Ultra Girl and Ultraman. Carlson used one of the pinups as the inside front cover to Megaton number 5. Okay. I need to change my settings to make sure that the emails do not get out or do not pop up on screen, because it is very annoying. Alright, Carlson used to be used in Liefeld's Ultra Girl pinup in the company's Who's Who type reference book, Megaton Explosion number 1, June 1987. The book Oh no! Alright, the book also featured an entry for Liefeld's own creation, a team of superheroes called Youngblood. Oh, wow, that early, huh? The very first appearance of that team in print. And here is the team. Alright, and back. Doop. Carlson and his colleague Chris Ecker later met with the teenage Liefeld, who at that point had not yet obtained his driver's license. Wait, wasn't he a pizza delivery guy? What do you mean he doesn't have his driver's license? Are you saying that he was breaking traffic laws just trying to get pizzas to people? I mean, that sounds like something he would do, but still. At the Ramonda O'Hare Hotel, which was then the location of the Chicago Comic-Con. Impressed with the artist's enthusiasm and the new art samples he showed them, Carlson gave Liefeld a test script in order to judge his ability to draw a page-to-page comic story. Although Carlson was impressed with Liefeld's layouts, the story was eventually drawn by Gary Thomas by the time it saw print in Megaton number 7. 2 months later, Liefeld drew the team in an advertisement in Megaton number 8, which indicated that it would next appear in Megaton Special number 1 by Liefeld and writer Hank Canals, with a cover by artist Jerry Ordway. However, Megaton Comics was out of business before that could be printed. Oh well, so it goes. Small publishers don't, especially back then, they didn't last very long. Either they went out of business or they got bought up by the big two. But hey, a start is a start. And sometimes when it comes to professional work, you gotta take your gigs where you can. Alright. Success with DC Comics and Marvel Comics. Okay, I swear I went to bed last night. I conked out almost immediately after the stream, so I swear I did get a good night's sleep. I do not know why I am this tired. Alright, success with DC Comics and Marvel Comics. Learning from a friend of a comic book convention in San Francisco, where a large number of editors would be in attendance, Liefeld and his friend drove several hours to San Francisco. I wonder if they get different people to write these Wikipedia articles, because they do have different wordings. Where they stayed with his aunt and uncle. At the convention, he showed editors his samples and offered a package which consisted of 10 pages of sequential art featuring his own characters. Editor Dick Giordano, I hope that's right, to whom Liefeld showed his samples at the DC booth, requested that Liefeld send him more samples. Although Liefeld was apprehensive about approaching the Marvel booth, he did so at his friend's urging, and as a result, editor Mark Gunswald offered Liefeld a job illustrating an 8-page Avengers backup story featuring the Black Panther, much to the 19-year-old artist's surprise. Though the published story was ultimately illustrated by another artist, Liefeld was later given character design work by the publisher. His first published story was a DC Comics bonus book insert in Warlord, number 131. Editor Robert Greenberger recalled that Liefeld was discovered by my office mate, Jonathan Pearson, who was scrambling to find something for him to do. Not exactly glowing words of praise, but okay. I had the Warlord bonus book slot coming up, so to keep Rob from finding work at our rival, I tapped him for that. Next came the 5-issue miniseries Hawk and Dove for DC Comics, the first issue of which was published with an October 1988 cover date. It was this work that first garnered Liefeld visibility among readers of mainstream comics. That same year, Liefeld drew Secret Origins number 28. All right. Working your way through. All right. Liefeld's layouts with Hawk and Dove number 5, which took place in a chaos dimension, were oriented sideways so that a reader would have to turn the book at a right angle to read them. Well, that's not a completely new technique, but it is cool whenever you see it. Like in The Rites of Spring from Swamp Thing, where you had to turn the book to read it several times. It was really cool. Because this was done without prior editorial approval, editor Mark Carlton cut and pasted the panels into the proper order, and Carl Kess lightboxed. Oh, they're two separate links. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Carl Kessel lightboxed? What the? Okay, but they are two different highlights done into DC Comics paper to ink them. The letters column of Hawk and Dove number 5 mentioned that Liefeld showed something new to an editor who thought he'd seen everything. Liefeld explained that this was how the dimension that had been portrayed the only other time Liefeld explained this was how the dimension had been portrayed the only other time it had been shown. Okay, this Wikipedia article is kind of... Am I crazy, or is it kind of worded weirdly? I don't know. Kessel disputed this, asserting that this was the first time that dimension had been shown, By a 2007 article in Comic Book Resources pointed out that artist Eric Larson had indeed portrayed that realm in this manner in Doom Patrol number 14, which had been published 3 months prior. Okay, so they're having debate on like this kind of dimension. All right. Shortly thereafter, Liefeld began doing work for Marvel Comics as well. His first assignment for them being Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 23. Do we have that picture? I don't think we do. Liefeld became the penciler for the Marvel series The New Mutants, starting with issue number 86. He's generally credited for turning this lowest-selling title of the X-Men franchise into a financial success, which underlined the increased popularity and clout that his stint on the title had earned him. With New Mutants number 98, Liefeld assumed full creative control over the series, penciling, inking, and plotting, with Fabian Icesa also writing dialogue. The New Mutant series ended with issue 100 and was replaced with a revamped version of the team called X-Force, whose 1991 debut sold 4 million copies, setting an industry-wide record later broken by Chris Claremont and Jay Lee's X-Men Volume Number 2, X-Men Volume Number 1. All right, let's take a look at some of the art. So, little break here. Yeah. This isn't X-Men related. Oh, stop it. I want to see the picture. Give me the picture. Yep, that is classic Liefeld. Big, dramatic, bold, and lots of detail. Yep, that's Liefeld. Let's see if we could get some X-Force in here. Yep, the infamous Captain America illustration, where Cap's chest looks inhumanly big, making him either look like he has magnificent tits or that his rib cage is protruding way further than a normal human's rib cage should. Mm-hmm. Here we are. The New Mutants. Again, we got Cable, Wolverine. Very, very Liefeld. Look at all the bullets. That's classic Liefeld too. But anyway. Let's get back to the reading. Yeah, with the New... The sales numbers were propelled by 1990's direct market sales strategy. 5 variant edition trading cards were polybagged with X-Force number 1 to encourage sales of multiple copies to single collectors. Yeah, that turned out great. That was an amazing business deal that wouldn't immediately backfire on them. While X-Men number 1 was sold with 5 variant covers. As of 2013, X-Force number 1 remains the single highest selling comic book in history. Okay. In the mid-90s, Levi began producing a series of TV commercials directed by Spike Lee for their 501 button fly jeans, which included an on-screen 800 number that viewers who worked in unique jobs would call in order to appear in the company's commercials. After calling the number and leaving a message describing himself and his career, Liefeld appeared in one of the commercials, in which Lee interviews Liefeld about his career and his creation, X-Force. Wait. Rob Liefeld... I gotta see this. Oh my gosh, we gotta see this. I'm sorry we're stopping the reading, but we gotta see
Time
this.
is running out.
Oh, shut up.
Snap your W-2 and file your
I don't
taxes
care,
100%
TurboTax,
free
go
now.
away.
Plus, get your biggest...
Nobody likes you.
Dynasty vixen Joan Collins on the next line.
Saw that you can make a living out of third base. You'll hear no complaints anymore.
And you created X-Force?
So what is the drawing of?
This is the Spike Man.
And what's this right here?
This is the camera on top of your head that will record the wrongdoings of others.
So Rob, have you had any formal art training?
No,
Oh.
just a lot of imagination, I think. Wait so I say it and then look down, or just open it and say it.
Fly button?
What?
Nothing but...
That was just so chaotic. Oh my. It's so cheesy, but it's actually sort of genius in its own way. And yeah, it makes sense for a jean seller to be like, hey, our jeans can be for anyone. They don't have to be just for like the rugged cowboys or the hipster teens. They could be for anyone. So yeah, I guess it would make sense for them to have a comic creator on there. Though if they could advertise that those jeans are comfy enough where you would want to wear them in the house, that would be a statement. Okay. Liefeld was subsequently interviewed by Stan Lee in the second episode of the 1991 documentary series The Comic Book Greats, in which he discussed how he broke into the industry, demonstrated his drawing technique, and talked about his Levi's commercial. Yes, we are going to get into that because that is where the infamous clip of him doing a live drawing with Todd McFarlane, and they are both getting relentlessly roasted by Stan Lee. Alright. Leaving Marvel Comics, co-founding Image Comics. Liefeld's relationship with Marvel began to break down in 1991 when he announced plans in a black and white advertisement in the Comics Buyer's Guide to publish an original title with competitor Malibu Comics. The exact title is unknown, but according to journalist Michael Dean, it was something to the effect of The Executioners, a title whose similarity to Marvel's X family of titles evoked the ire of Marvel editor Bob Harras, who threatened to fire Liefeld if he used that title. I mean, you could argue that Executioners, it's not directly related to the X-Men. I mean, it's the 90s. People were just putting X's and Z's in very weird places in their titles. Alright. Liefeld and several other popular young artists, including Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson, Will Sportatio, Jim Valentino, and Mark Silvestri, left Marvel in 1992 to form Image Comics. Each co-founder formed his own studio under the Image banner, such as Liefeld's Extreme Studios. Liefeld's superhero team series Youngblood, which is partially a derivative of the 1991 Teen Titans series Liefeld had proposed to DC Comics, was the first comic Image published. He appeared in an episode of The Dennis Miller Show to promote the book. I mean, can you imagine getting a TV slot to advertise a comic book? That's so hard for me to believe now. Like, sometimes you might get like a popular influencer to interview or whatnot, but other times you're kind of just banging on your drum frantically on either X or you're doing a podcast. The series' first issue met with negative reception from fans and critics for the unclear storytelling affected not only by Liefeld's art, but by the book's flip format, which some readers found confusing. as well as the book's poor anatomy, incorrect perspectives, non-existent backgrounds, poor dialogue, and the late shipping of the book. Oh boy. A problem that continued with subsequent issues. In an interview in Hero Illustrated number 4, October 1993, Liefeld conceded disappointment with the first 4 issues of Youngblood, calling the first issue a disaster. Liefeld explained that production problems, as well as subpar scripting by his friend and collaborator Hank Kalnatz, whose employment Liefeld later terminated, resulted in work that was lower in quality than that which Liefeld produced when Fabian Narcia scripted his plots on X-Force. Okay, I am going to get this correct. Nicieza? Fabian Nicieza. And that reprints of those 4 issues would be rescripted. Writer and Comics Buyer Guide columnist Peter David pointed to Liefeld's scapegoating of Kalnaz as an example of Liefeld's failure to take responsibility for his project, and evidence that genuine collaboration with good writers like Louis Simonson and Fabian Niciez, which some of the Image founders did not appreciate, had previously reflected better on Liefeld's art. Yeah, Liefeld is a interesting dude. Other titles produced by Liefeld's Extreme Studios during the 1990s included Brigade, Bloodstrike, Glory, Prophet, Supreme, Team Youngblood, Youngblood Strike File, Troll, Newman, and Evangeline. In 1996, Liefeld and Lee's studios signed with Marvel to re-envision several of the company's core series. An event called Heroes Reborn. Yeah. Liefeld was contracted to write 12 issues of The Avengers, co-written with Jeff Loeb, and was to pencil 12 issues of Captain America. Due to disappointing sales, Marvel terminated the agreement after 6 issues and reassigned the 2 issues to Lee Studios. One of the most controversial episodes in Liefeld's career. Oh my god. Yeah, Heroes Reborn, obviously I wasn't around. I was like 1 when this series came out, but so many old fogey comic fans tell me that, oh my gosh, what the hell were they thinking with Heroes Reborn? Alright, departure from Image. In June 1996, Mark Silvestri temporarily left Image with his Top Cow imprint over conflicts with Liefeld, with Image Comics executive director Larry Marder saying that Liefeld was making an increasing number of business decisions that were counterproductive to being a business partner. In early September, Liefeld issued a press release stating he was resigning his position at Image and leaving the group. Nearly simultaneously, the other Image partners issued a press release stating that they had fired Liefeld. His resignation came only minutes before the second meeting that would have forced him out. So basically, he's like, you can't fire me, I quit! Which... Okay, dude. Liefeld moved all of his publishing ventures into a new company, Awesome Comics. This new enterprise, announced in April 1997 as a partnership between Liefeld and Malibu Comics, founding partner Scott Michael Rosenberg, concentrated its efforts on newer properties. Alright, Awesome Comics. After leaving Captain America, Liefeld attempted to buy the rights to Fighting American. Oh, I've heard about this situation. A similarly patriotic-themed 1954 character from Captain America's co-creators, Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. Yeah, that was them basically giving a fuck you to Marvel for screwing them over. The still living Simon and Kirby's widow agreed to a figure Liefeld felt was too high, and he created a new similar character, Agent America. Simon threatened to sue, and all parties renegotiated a deal acceptable to all. Marvel Comics then sued Liefeld, who was allowed to use the character but not have him throw his shield weapon, a distinctive trait of Captain America. It's like, dude. It's like, he had way too much gusto for his own good. Just way too much gusto. Liefeld also hired comic book writer Alan Moore to revive many of Liefeld's creations. Moore wrote a few issues of Youngblood and Glory, but his most lauded work for Liefeld was on Supreme, which Moore won a 1997 Eisner for Best Writer. I think I might check that out. It kind of looks like a Jupiter from that other comic series. Interesting. I'll have to dive deep into that later. Okay. Awesome's initial release included new properties like Kaboom, created by Jeff Matsuda. Awesome ceased operation in 2000 due to the departure of its primary investor. Oh, I wonder who the primary investor was. Interview with Alan Moore. Maybe we can find an Alan Moore clip of him talking about it. Alright, in the 2000s, Liefeld returned to his former characters in the X-Men franchise, providing pencils for Cable and X-Force until the early 2000s, when both were cancelled. In 2004, he reunited with Fabian Nicieza for an X-Force limited series and illustrated the early covers for Nicieza's Cable and Deadpool. In the same year, Liefeld formed Arcade Comics and once again announced plans to revive Youngblood. These involved reprinting old material and providing the art for two new series, Youngblood Bloodsport with Mark Millar and Youngblood Genesis with Brandon Thomas. Although the former only published one issue, Liefeld expressed hopes to finish the series. Liefeld and writer Jeff Loeb returned to the Heroes Reborn universe. Why? With Onslaught Reborn, a 5-issue limited series that premiered in November 2006. It met with poor reviews. In 2007, Liefeld and writer Robert Kirkman collaborated on a revival of Killraven. Although 5 issues of the series were finished, the project was cancelled without any of them being printed. In July 2007, it was announced that Rob Liefeld and Youngblood would be returning to Image Comics after years of self-publication. The new partnership marks the first time in a decade that Liefeld and Image would collaborate on a project. This Youngblood series was written by Joe Casey, with art by Derek Donovan and Val Staples, and covers by Liefeld. It debuted in January 2008. Liefeld took over writing and art duties with issue 9, though that would be the series' final issue. To commemorate the event, at the 15th anniversary of Image Comics, the 2007 San Diego Comic-Con was headlined by the Image Founders panel, where all 7 of the original Image founders appeared on stage together. Ooh, that must have been awkward. Alright, so the 2010s. 2010 saw Liefeld return to the Deadpool character, first by penciling issue number 1 of the Prelude to Deadpool Corps series. the issue focusing on Lady Deadpool, Liefeld became the regular artist on Deadpool Corps, providing interior art for the first 9 issues. In March 2011, Liefeld was announced as the artist on Infinite, a miniseries written by Robert Kirkman. In January 2012, this project was canceled by Liefeld after Kirkman's studio, Skybound, disagreed on the work of a new inker Liefeld hired to draw 14 of the pages in issue 5, which Liefeld re-inked as a result. I am so baffled at the logic of Liefeld's business decisions. Okay. In June 2011, he was announced as the artist on a new Hawk and Dove series, with writer Sterling Gates as part of the New 52, DC Comics relaunch of their entire superhero line, returning Liefeld to the characters that helped establish him in the industry. When that book was canceled as of issue 8, Liefeld was hired to take over 3 other titles, Grifter, Deathstroke, and The Savage Hawkman, plotting all 3, while also writing and drawing Deathstroke. Though he indicated in July 2012 that he would stay on the titles for a run that would end in 2013, he abruptly quit DC Comics in late August 2012, announcing that the 0 issue will be published in September would be his last. Why? Though Liefeld characterized his experience on the New 52 as a positive one, he did not disguise his animosity towards editor Brian Smith, with whom his clashes were among his reasons for leaving the company. Other reasons he cited were frequent rewrites of his material and the overall corporate culture that was more prevalent now that both DC and Marvel were owned by large media conglomerates. Liefeld also referred to Scott Clark's artwork on Grifter as crap. Give that as you will. Liefeld indicated that he would return to focusing on his creator-owned properties at Image, including Bloodstrike, Brigade, as well as other projects yet to be specified. In response to these events, artist Pete Woods defended DC editorial, stating that the restrictions placed on creators was the result of a plan they had for all 52 of their titles that required them to be consistent with one another. Oh yeah, internal continuity. Yeah. Editor Tom Brevoort and writer Gail Simone defended Brian Smith, disputing Liefeld's characterization of him, leading to a heated exchange on Twitter, the best place to have a heated exchange, on Twitter between Liefeld and Brevoort, and eventually head Batman writer Scott Snyder as well. In 2011-2012, Liefeld returned to his earlier creator-owned characters with new books written and illustrated by other writers and artists. These included a new Evangeline ongoing series debut at Image Comics under the creative team of Mark Paulton and Owen Genie, a Bloodstrike series written by Tim Seeley, a Glory series written by Joe Keating and illustrated by Sophie Campbell, and a Prophet series written by Brandon Graham that garnered critical acclaim. He also published revivals of Young Blood again, with writer John McLennan, with artist John Malin, and Supreme by Eric Larson. Again, this article is so awkwardly written. Who wrote this? In August 2012, Liefeld generated controversy. Oh, he's just now generating controversy. By posting a tweet in which he said of his creation, Deadpool, and the creators who worked on the character, testament to Deadpool's appeal and durability is that he thrives regardless of being regulated to D-list talent, Marvel A-list never touches. Yeah, not good to crap on the people who are currently working on a character you helped co-create, dude. The comment was met with criticism by industry professionals who pointed to the esteemed creators who had worked on the character that Liefeld was apparently calling D-list creators. Among these critics was Rich Johnston of Bleeding Cool. Well, I don't know how much we can trust Rich Johnston either. There are several players in this story where you can't really trust them at their word. Gail Simone is among them, where she's constantly trying to twist the truth. And I don't know about whatever Scott Snyder says these days. The comic industry has just become a mess. And even though the indie industry is also a mess, it's still the same mess and the same drama, you know? Yeah, who pointed out that some of these past creators included Joe Kelly, Ed McGuinness, Joe Mandarella, Gail Simone, Dave Lapham, and Kyle Baker. By the way, I say that you can't trust certain creators and that everything is a mess, there's a lot of drama. I'm not saying they're bad creators. You can be a good artist and a good writer, but also be a drama monger too. Let's be real. I will still say to this day, Ethan Van Sciver is a very good artist. He is good at what he does, but man, he should keep his mouth shut. He has gotten himself into so much trouble that it's become so hard to even defend the guy. Alright. Artist Dave Johnson, okay, I'm skipping over this because that's just the drama. Liefeld made a cameo appearance in the 2006 film based on his most famous creation, Deadpool, which released back in February 2016. In an interview that month, Liefeld stated he was working on the graphic novel Deadpool Bad Blood, which was set for release later that year. In 2017, it was reported by Dateline that Liefeld was working with Akivia Goldsman and Graham King on a 7-figure movie deal for his Extreme Universe. Alright. In June 2019, Liefeld reacted to the sweeping editorial changes that occurred at DC Comics in the aftermath of a controversial printing error on the Bat Dick. I know exactly what that is. That is the Bat Dick issue where, okay, long story short, DC Comics had their Black Label, which is basically their mature label, where they would talk about mature topics. And there's this scene where Batman is walking through the Batcave and he gets his suit off, and you get a glimpse of his bat schlong. Which, you can argue that because it's a mature label, it shouldn't be that big of a deal that you get to see the bat dick, but it still pissed a lot of people off, including hardcore Batman fans, and I still think it's kind of weird to see Batman's dick outside of a porno. Alright, which set off two tweets in which he stated, DC Comics is going to drive off a cliff here real soon. Gotta get my popcorn. I ain't never seen a company in as much disarray as DC Comics. Thank God they have Batman to act as their Tylenol aspirin. Laughing gas. Or Batman will fix it. When writer Mark Millar expressed skepticism of this prediction, pointing to DC's strong lineup, Liefeld replied that Millar's assessment was a dated one that had not been true since the 80s. I think that a better way to put it is, you can have all the good talent in the world on your side, but if there is a lot of mismanagement happening behind the scenes, things are just going to go downhill. I understand my DC honesty will cost me a potential opportunity, but who cares? Come on, they should fire everybody in management and refresh. Batman will still be there for the next group, and Jim Lee could finally draw the X-Men for you again. Wins all around. Liefeld eventually deleted the initial 2 tweets, but they nonetheless prompted a series of arguments between Liefeld and users who criticized him for his remarks. Which, yeah, the last 10 years has been just very confusing. Alright, in July 2020, IDW Publishing released the first issue of Snake Eye's Dead Game. I think I reviewed this one. I think I remember reviewing this one. Is this what I'm thinking of? Yeah, I believe this is the one I was thinking of. It was a weird series, man. And one of the main villains, I swear to God, he changed skin tones throughout the book. It's like they couldn't tell if they wanted him to be a white guy, a black guy, or if his skin was like red, and I'm not saying Native American, I mean red. It was just very odd art and very strange. G.I. Joe related series co-written by Liefeld and Chad Bowers, and penciled by Liefeld, Adelso Corona, and Neil Vitecchi. Around the same time, Liefeld began a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and Podbean called Robservations, in which he talks about different topics pertaining to the comic book industry. Alright. October 2023. We're coming to the end! We are coming to the end! Liefeld debuted on his Instagram account a proof of concept trailer for Bloodstrike, based on the Image Comics series he had debuted in 1993 as a spin-off of Youngblood. Alright, Bloodstrike. Okay, we're going to skim through this. Okay, according to Liefeld, also expressed a commitment during the COVID-19 pandemic to make a Bloodstrike film. His commitments at the time were fulfilled, beginning with the trailer. Alright, 2004. He announced on Twitter that after producing one final Deadpool comic to be published later that year, he was retiring from writing or drawing the character, stating, "I am retiring from Deadpool. It's official. Yep, after 33 years of not only introducing Deadpool, but chronicling as many of his most popular adventures, it's time for the Deadpool daddy to say farewell." Alright, 2005. Alright, he said the incident a few months ago where he cut ties with Marvel for not inviting him to the Deadpool Wolverine after party. We are going to skip through that. Byron McBendis described the polarization of opinion on Liefeld. There is a great dichotomy. There's either some great and generous story about Liefeld, or you reveal some unbelievable thing like, how is he not in jail if he did that? There is no middle ground. He does seem like a pretty polarizing guy. But, yeah. We're not going to get into that, just because we're probably going to pick up on it on whatever we're going to read next. But I do have this article to go through where Rob Liefeld is going to bring us a new Youngblood comic. Hooray! And this was published today! Oh my gosh! But before we do that, I found this clip that might be fun to react to, where Rob Liefeld is drawing Deadpool, and it's going to be at 2013 Cosplay Expo.
Project.
Still deciding.
Okay.
Personalizing for you. And if you make a purchase, you can
So Jimmy, I really appreciate you sitting here with me today. I'm telling you, so cool.
I get different contacts in the NBC.
Oh my God. Yeah, my Andy. It's in review.
Gosh, this is bringing me back to I just graduated high school in 2013. So that is this. I wasn't at this expo, but it is bringing back memories where we all were cringy teenagers who had cheap cosplays, Pocky, and were going around following the artists, voice actors, and whoever like they were gods. It was a very strange time in my life, and I am so glad I am not a teenager anymore. That's cool. Okay, this is gonna sound super bitchy, and I totally understand it's gonna sound super bitchy, but this sketch kind of looks better than the Heroes Reborn work. Am I wrong? I don't know, because he looks like Deadpool looks way more naturally proportioned here than some of his more extreme work. But yeah, you can't say he doesn't do his own work. I find it a little strange that... I guess we're doing the overhead shot to see his actual work.
Southwest, everybody's exactly the same. You know, meaning like there's not like a first class, there's not a, or there. I mean, there's a business class, but I mean, you know, that's another $10. So, you know, I fly business class.
So go shake the table. So, Jimmy, what else? What else? Oh no.
I'm gonna stop there so that I don't get copyrighted for that music playing in the background. By the way, go check out Interstellar 555. So that song that was in the background one more time by Daft Punk. Interstellar 5555. It's basically one big music video. It's a big animated music video. Super strange, but also super cool at the same time, and I highly recommend it. Paper thin plot, not hard to misinterpret. You'll have a good time. Sometimes I like movies where it doesn't have a super complicated plot, you know? I like the ones where it's like, I just want to turn it on, turn my brain off, and watch the pretty colors dance on the screen. Because I am either super tired or super drunk. Alright. But breaking news! This article came out almost 4 hours ago. So Liefeld Talks' new Youngblood comic shares exclusive first look by Evan Valentine at a comicbook.com. Alright, Rob Liefeld is easily one of the most recognizable names in comics, making a name for himself with Marvel creations such as Deadpool, Cable, and Domino, and going on to be one of the founders of the wildly successful Image Comics. After his recent work with Marvel Comics, Liefeld is returning to his Image roots by bringing back the supergroup known as Youngblood. I think Youngblood is just his baby. Youngblood is his baby that he is never going to give up on, and he is going to do everything he can to make sure that his baby is getting everything it wants. Returning to write and draw, the likes of Shaft, Bad Rock, and Die Hard for the first time in 16 years. I don't know why I said Die Head. Rob is making a shift by distributing the comic himself to fans, and has plenty to say when it comes to their long-awaited return. For you older comic book fans out there, were you jonesing for the return of Youngblood? Because I more often hear older comic fans, they're like, oh yeah, I used to read Youngblood as a kid. How about I reread it to, relive the magic? And they're like, oh, wow, oh, this wasn't as good as I remembered it being. That's what I hear most from Youngblood. But you let me know in the comments. Are you guys excited for a new Youngblood re-release? Anyway. Liefeld couldn't have picked a better time to bring back Youngblood, as their return will coincide with the 33rd anniversary of Image Comics. Youngblood was the only Image Comics for the first 3 months. I think they meant the only book of Image Comics for the first 3 months, and I had set this all in motion. If I hadn't gone first, it wasn't going to happen. Part of what we did with creators' rights and what Image set up, you can make characters and catalog, and you can sell them. It is a thrill to come back to these characters, and it was last April that I talked with Image Comics and Scott Rosenberg to team up and do Youngblood again, since Scott controls those specific characters. We cut a great deal to find me back on board, and media like television and movies are great, but publishing is where my heart's at. Okay. Alright, so it's not Liefeld doing the art for it. It looks like he might be doing the script for it. And I think that's baby Liefeld's face on his t-shirt there. Observations, Rob Liefeld. In referencing the decision to coincide the release with Image Comics' anniversary, Rob had to do the release in a very specific way. A little concerned what that means, considering what we've all heard. I had to have the book at the printer last week so I could have it this week and then sell it. At the end of the day, I am so thrilled that I am back with Shaft, Bad Rock, Die Hard, and Chapel. I think the book will be a revelation to many, and it is my love letter to the team. I feel like these kinds of team books don't exist on the shelves anymore, like the ones I grew up with, like the Titans. I wish I could say more, but that would be spoiling it. I mean, we do still have team books, like the X-Men are still going strong. But I will say that I am noticing on the shelves it's more of a solo title or it's a duo title. No, don't fall asleep. In an effort to get this comic series out to the fans, Rob took matters into his own hands, distributing the upcoming series on his website, which you can check out by clicking here. Rob Liefeld has a website. Let's see what that's all about. All right. Liefeld Creations. All right, and looks like we got some Youngblood here. The covers do look really cool. Oh, that's not Frank Miller's best. Alright, but I'll put a link to this website in the description if you guys want to go check that out. This is really celebrating the launch and history of Youngblood, and no one will have these issues before the readers. I know that the comics will find their way online with spoilers, but I think this will open it up to the fans. I mean, yes and no. Like, I am guilty of having pirated comics before, just to see if I want the comic first, and it's a 50-50 of, yeah, I think I'll go ahead and get the physical copy, and oh my, I'm so glad I did not spend my money on this. This isn't the first time that Liefeld has opened a channel to readers, having done so previously with his story Last Blood. Rob was more than happy to explain how this method was a new way for the Extreme universe to thrive. I've been doing a direct-to-consumer product, Last Blood, and it's the future of the Extreme universe. The book has Battlestone, and he's old with a beard, and people wonder if Youngblood will be older, and no. They're Peter Parker age-wise, and they're exactly where you left them. They're a government-sanctioned super squadron that takes on missions that threaten the community. I think every 10 years there has been a reset where you introduce yourself, so this works perfectly for that. If you don't know who Youngblood is, that's fine. We introduce all of them once again, we explain who they are, and they are identified immediately, and we're off to the races. Well, that's good, because I know next to nothing about Youngblood, admittedly. Alright. Rob won't be pulling any punches, with his extreme characters this time around, however, stating as much during our interview, I've never treated a couple of characters so cruelly. I really get to punish them pretty badly. If you've been around a long time, you might be thinking, wow, Liefeld has never gone this far, and we have 3 cliffhangers. Average comics are 22 pages, and ours is 32. We wanted to go big and put the characters through their paces. In some ways, you never left them, and there are some new twists and turns. I think it's a great ride. If I'm going to complain about comics, I better put up one that can stand above the rest of them. Yeah, put up or shut up. If you don't like what's going on, then make your own product. That's how the modern indie industry came forth. All right. This first issue won't be it for the Image Super Team. However, as Rob is already working on future issues, I'm doing Youngblood all the time. We'll have about 8 issues to get everyone hooked. Then we'll dive into legacy numbering at issue 100. I have another secret Youngblood project in the works that's Giant Size Youngblood, which is my love letter to Giant Size X-Men. I'm a big kid in a candy store who is reunited with his favorite creations. I am so happy to be back. Youngblood number 1 will be available beginning on Wednesday. Oh, it's going to be available in a few days, guys. You can reserve your copy by clicking here. All right. I wonder what the comments say. There are 0 comments. Ah, okay. So yeah, Youngblood is getting rebooted. I'm just amazed that this article came out today. So we're breaking ground here, folks. Oh, stop it. All right. Since I am starting to get the cotton mouth, we're going to switch on over to the comic book greats with Rob Liefeld. Wait, where does Stan Lee's Excelsior tagline come from? Now I gotta look this up because I am so curious. The term Excelsior is a Latin word meaning ever upward or still higher. It became his catchphrase and life motto, symbolizing his commitment to progress and creativity in his work. Okay, so it's just like a fun phrase that he likes to use. It's a Latin phrase he likes to use, I should say. Stop it. And I swear I honest to God thought Rob Liefeld was a teenager in this clip. He looks like a teenager! Like, seriously, what bath of baby's blood is he bathing in?
Hi, heroes. I'm Stan Lee. I can't blame you. And
I still don't know what he means by that!
really glad you're here today because we have a great guest. And I don't want you to let his age fool you. The fact that he's been in the business for so many years, it's 3 years, I believe, and he's all of 23 years old, and I want you to know he is one of the top talents in the comic book business. He writes, he draws, he's a great guy. You'll love listening to him. And here he is, Rob Liefeld. Hiya, Rob. Glad to have you here.
How you doing, Stan?
Okay, and I want to get right into it.
He even kind of dresses like a teenager too. Like, can you really blame me for? I dead ass thought he was a teenager in this clip. I really, really did.
Okay.
And I want to find out how a guy like you, who looks legit in every other respect, ever got into the comic book business. How did it happen?
How did I get into the comic book business?
And how old were you when it happened?
I was 19.
19.
I was 19, and I was always reading comics and got major enjoyment out of them, you know, as a kid, and decided pretty early on that that's what I wanted to do as a living. Went to some conventions, shows, and got to meet the other artists and the other professionals, and saw how comic books were produced, and tried to learn as much as I could from that. I figured I had to finish high school first, or you know, my parents would have a conniption fit, so we had to get through that, and so once high school was finished, and I was just working some odd jobs, I said I'm going to break into comic books. So for about a year, I worked a couple jobs, delivered pizzas, worked some construction in the daytime, and all the while, every free moment, you know, away from friends or whatever, working on my comic books.
I mean, you were drawing in
all
your
drawing,
spare
yeah,
time.
drawing.
Had you studied art, or did you just...
Say what you will about Liefeld, that's actually a pretty good way to approach it, because getting into, well, writing in general, but getting into the comic industry is tough, and you probably should have a day job just in case things don't work out, because things can and will go tits up pretty quickly when it comes into the entertainment industry. So that was a good approach of his, to not just solely focus on his art, but for him to have some like day jobs to hold himself over until he got into the industry. And that's what I would recommend to anybody else, either getting into comics or trying to get into writing. Do not quit your day job until you can support yourself on what you are doing. Because if you try to quit prematurely, you're going to screw yourself over. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but you will screw yourself over if you quit your day job just to focus solely on art. Because it takes time. You have to be patient. And even if you are the brightest star in the sky, there's all sorts of bullshit that goes on in the entertainment industry that'll keep you stuck in the dark. So do not quit your day job until you can support yourself on what you are doing.
Pick it up on your own.
No, you know, the high school art classes, you know, draw an apple, draw a flower, I mean, and stuff, and that was good. I mean, I learned my fundamentals, but I was always drawing or coloring or you know, tracing. I mean, I think I started out tracing, you know, when I was a kid, you know, and then you kind of graduate to, hey, I think I can draw this, I don't have to look at it or trace over it anymore. So I was doing stuff like that.
Were you tracing comic book artwork?
Oh,
or
yeah.
all
Oh,
kinds?
yeah. Mainly comic book art. I mean, comic books, I just thought they were the coolest. You know, the big guys, the strong villains, you know, it was just exciting stuff.
I admire your taste and perception.
Oh, yeah. And so naturally I wanted to grow up and draw that stuff. Now, Mom and Dad weren't real thrilled about this because they weren't really sure, you know, comic books, you know, what's that about? I mean, I used to get in trouble for reading comic books. My dad would find them and throw them away.
Really?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Before or after you read them?
Oh, good question. Well, sometimes I'd have to hide them because I didn't have an opportune moment to, you know, look them over. But
That might also be from the whole, like, Baptist thing, because I know, I'm not saying this is a blanket for Baptists or a blanket for Christians, but 9 times out of 10, when I hear about a parent throwing away a kid's comic book, they're usually more on the super religious side, and they think, like, oh, you need to stop doing this. You need to get to growing up. And, well, I guess not religious side, but more the conservative side. So, and I'm not saying anything bad about conservatives. I'm basically a conservative myself, even though I still don't think of myself as one. But I see it more from, like, the conservative side. Though I think it has less to do with they hate art, they hate cool stuff, they just hate their kids having freedom. And I think it's more of just, why are you focusing all your attention on this rag when you should be focusing on your homework? Why are you trying to focus your career on producing these rags when you should get yourself a more stable job so you can provide for yourself and your family? So I think it's more of like a practical reason for why they were doing that, rather than just I hate my kid having fun, like so many movies like to portray it as.
But I wasn't real good at hiding things. I'd hide them in the washroom or whatever, and I'd go to find it, and then they'd say, "You're looking for a comic book? It went with today's trash." And I'd be,
Really? Wow.
I'd be, oh yeah, they thought that was bad news. They didn't want their kid tied up in comic books, but they don't complain anymore. They're big fans of comic books now. But anyway, out of high school, having all this, built all this up from a young age, every spare moment I was trying to draw. Went to a local junior college, took some life drawing classes to see how the body was in motion and stuff. But studying the guys I liked, seeing what made me respond to their work on paper, and started mailing stuff off.
Excuse me one moment. Who were some of the guys you liked? I think that would be interesting.
Actually, John Byrne, Frank Miller, George Perez, and those were the guys who actually were currently doing comics. As I was collecting them. Friends of mine.
I do see a lot of Perez and his art, and I do see a bit of Frank Miller too. It's like a weird combination of Miller and Perez.
Mine would say, "Well, are you into Neil Adams, or are you familiar with Jack Kirby's work?" And so then I'd go, and get turned on to their work, and it was just, I was just taking everything in as I could,
You sort of became an amalgam of all that was best of all
of them. Oh, sure.
Huh?
I mean, I'd say, well, I like this. This guy's got a lot of detail, and this guy does cool figures, and this guy does great close-ups, and this guy's really moody, and that guy draws really realistic, and you're trying to find, well, what do I like about all these guys, and try and put it into some style that you can call your own. So anyway, I was sending off packages right and left to smaller companies.
I will say that I have my comic book, Next Evolution, and I'm the writer, not the artist, but I had never written a comic book script before Next Evolution. I had no idea how to do it. But I had read a whole bunch of comic books, obviously, and I kind of picked up on the flow that a comic should have. And I would notice that different writers had a different way of controlling the flow of a comic book. So I was taking a bunch of cues from different writers. I guess my biggest one is Warren Ellis for some reason, where I really like how he does the flow, but I also taken a little bit of Frank Miller, a little bit of Grant Morrison, a little bit of Garth Ennis. It's just a whole bunch of stuff, and you kind of just become an amalgamation of all of your heroes, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Not the big two, being Marvel Comics and DC Comics. I was kind of in awe of them, or afraid of them. A friend of mine called me up and said, "Hey, there's this big convention in San Francisco. I read about it in one of these trade magazines.
Comic book convention.
Comic book convention." And I'd been to a couple of those locally, but this one had tons of editors on the guest list, and I had already learned that that's how you get your job, from the editors. If they don't like your work, you're not going to get in. And so we decided, we had a free weekend, to hop in the car, go to my aunt and uncle's place in San Francisco. I lived in Anaheim, Orange County, so it was about anywhere from a 7 to 8 hour drive. Drove all Friday night, got to my aunt and uncle's, kicked back. I was kind of nervous, I was like, oh, tomorrow's it, it was kind of like trial by fire, go in there and, see if they respond. So we got there bright and early, and I decided I'd go to hit all the small companies first.
Let me interrupt once
Okay.
more for a second.
No problem.
What type of artwork were you bringing to show them?
I
think people would want to know.
All my own stuff. I mean, I created my own characters.
For some reason, I really like Stan Lee in this interview. I don't know if he's just like taking a shine to Rob Liefeld at this point in time, but he is directing the interview to make it as smoothly as possible, and he's trying to ask the questions that we ourselves would be asking at this one. He's actually acting like an interviewer here, whereas with Oh, he was acting more of an interviewer with Todd McFarlane, though it was a little bit more. I think that was when their tension was starting, so there was a little bit of tension between the two. And of course, you got Bob Kane, which was fake as hell. Like, I didn't even need to play it that. I couldn't even play it that long. It just came off as so plastic. But I do like Stan Lee interviewing Rob Liefeld here because he actually feels like a person here. Like an interviewer and a person here. Like, he's genuinely interested here. But then again, that might also be because Liefeld, at this point in time, Liefeld was a rising star. So of course he's going to be invested and interested in making sure this guy answers all the questions so we all get the juicy details.
And
Did you do it as if it was a page of a
oh
comic?
yeah, they were
in
all
panels?
comic sequential art. I didn't give them pinups. I didn't give them posters because I had already learned that that's not what they wanted.
So you made it look like a comic book page.
Oh sure, I
or a
drew my
group
own
of
comic
them.
books. Yeah, I had about 10 pages of comic book art featuring my own characters, and because actually the reason I featured my own characters was because that I was scared that I wasn't going to draw the Hulk as good as this guy did, or I'd draw Spider-Man as cool as this guy did. So I
Felt
said,
more
if
confident
it's
with
my
your own-
characters,
yeah.
nobody's drawing them as good as I am right now because no one knows they exist. So we took them down to San Francisco and showed them to the small companies and kind of build the courage. And eventually, they were all pretty responsive, and everyone's pretty busy. The convention was pretty busy. And about midday, I went over to DC Comics, and I said, well, I'll try and hit them up. And Dick Giordano, who was one of the main guys at DC, I believe he still is, looked over my stuff, said he was interested, and responded with a please send more. I gave him a Xerox packet. I had Xeroxes all my work, handed him out right and left. And then we were kind of at Marvel at this huge display. And my friend's going, go to Marvel, go talk to Marvel. And I was like, I don't know if I want to talk to Marvel. I don't think they'd be interested. And he said, go talk to Marvel. So I walked over there, and a guy by the name of Mark Grunwald, an editor, looked over my work, and he looked up at me and he said, how would you like to work for Marvel Comics? I fell over, I was like, you're kidding me, right? And he said, no, I have something right here in the bag that I can get.
That would freak me the hell out too, I'm not gonna lie. That would just freak me out. Like, what do you mean you want to hire me? I don't know. I'm shit.
Give you some character sketches and like an 8-page story.
You mean right off the bat?
Right
he offered
there,
you an
on
8-page
the
story.
spot.
And you hadn't wanted to go to Marvel.
Oh,
right?
I was terrified.
Why was that? Why more terrified of Marvel?
It's like they're the biggest game on the block.
It was like pulling teeth. I knew I'd get you to say
that.
that.
Oh, exactly. They were the big, the biggest catch. I mean, you figure, I didn't think I was quite ready. I didn't have the confidence, and
it was the biggest one that really recognized your stuff the best.
Yeah, I mean, I was just extremely fortunate. I mean, the ride home did not think of anything but, wow, I'm going to work in comics. I mean, I did not even think of the trip.
How you felt. Yeah.
So I came home and I was like, wow, I'm actually going to work in comics.
And you had an 8-page story to start with.
Yeah, they handed me an 8-page story and said, why don't you start drawing this? And he told me that if I didn't get in contact with him, to call him in a week.
Do you remember what the story was?
It was a story of the Black Panther. It was for an Avengers book that they did. And so it was a character called the Black Panther. Now I never got to draw the story, because they gave it to somebody else as well, and then that person drew it and saw print. What I gathered was they gave a lot of different plots out to up and coming artists.
I didn't know that. I thought it was a definite assignment.
So it was a definite assignment, but they eventually got me more work. I mean, it wasn't like it was a gag.
They did get you something else.
Oh sure, yeah. Yes. So then, I mean, from there on in, I was able to go home and say, well, cool, I can work these other jobs for just a little while longer, and then I'll be making my living from drawing comics, which is what I'd always, looked forward to doing.
And that's what you're doing now.
Yeah, constantly.
Son of a gun. Well, let me see. What I'd like to know is, in the beginning,
I think Stan Lee is probably also just. I may be just putting him on my psychology hat here, but I think Stan Lee might see a lot of himself in Rob Liefeld, so maybe that's why he just seems so human. I need to do an episode all about Stan Lee. Because if you guys have been paying attention to the other streams, you know that I have some complicated feelings towards Stan Lee. I do hold him in high regard. He helped get Marvel started. He was a brilliant face of the company, a brilliant head editor, great businessman, and he was a great concept guy too. But he was also a ruthless guy when he wanted to be. And he was a go-getter too. And I think he kind of saw that, a little bit of that in himself with Rob Liefeld. He saw Rob Liefeld as a creative, but also as a go-getter, and also someone who's not afraid to be a little ruthless if he needed to be. So, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could very much be wrong here.
What was the first strip that you did that was printed?
The first
Do you remember?
Yeah, it was a strip called Hawk and Dove for DC Comics.
Yeah.
It's weird how yin back. Marvel hired me on the spot at the convention and was interested and said they wanted me to do work, but at the time, you tell your parents or you tell your friends I'm working in comics, you better cough up some proof of that fact. And the first person to get you, something in the mail, because I called back about that plot they gave me, and they said, well, hold off on it. Talk to us a little before you do it, Marvel. They wanted to walk me through it a little, and I did some character sketches like they had asked for this book that they were producing for Marvel. So I did send my first, work off, but it wasn't like a story to Marvel. It was some character.
Wait, was this the Hawk and Dove before or after Dove died and got replaced by female Dove? Okay, so it was the female Dove. Alright, yeah, it was female Dove.
Designs that they had wanted, but DC sent me my first story. Like, here, get started on this. And, I was just going to do the first thing that came to me. And so I was actually kind of bouncing between DC and Marvel for the time being. But the Hawk and Dove book was a 5-issue miniseries, so it was very finite. It was going to be over in 5 months. And while I was doing that, Marvel then called and inquired about me doing regular work for them, which I was more than excited, about doing.
Me too.
So
what was the first job
for
Marvel?
For Marvel,
Yeah.
the first job was actually a Spider-Man story. It was what they call an annual. It's like a special thing they give out once a year, And so I did a Spider-Man job, and it's like weird. You're 3 pages into it, and you go, I'm drawing Spider-Man, It's kind of weird, It's like because he.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how I would react if I was just handed a job of writing Spider-Man. I feel like I would be just like him, where I'd be on writing page 5, and it's like, holy crap, I'm writing Spider-Man. Holy crap, what the hell am I doing?
He's become so recognizable and so part of comic book history or whatever, and so I did Spider-Man, and then they moved me into some X-Men books, did some X-Men stuff, and eventually there was a book that called The New Mutants that they wanted to change things on, and they moved me into that. So
isn't it incredible how you, as a beginner, in a sense, started out doing 2 of the top books and 2 of the best-selling books in the world?
I was the thing I always tell people is I was very fortunate that the stuff fit that.
Maybe the people at Marvel also had the good sense enough to know what to give you.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Because you...
Maybe it was right place and right time. We all give Rob Liefeld shit for his, crappy art and blah, 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 blah. But I feel like his artwork, complain about it all you want, but I feel like it just hit a specific nerve for the 90s where it was like, yes! This is what we're going to do! So as much as you want to give him shit for it, clearly the 90s wanted him. So, and that's another reason why I call him the king of the 90s, because everything about him just screams 90s. So he was just right place and right time, and his art just hit a specific funny bone for a whole bunch of comic book readers back at the time.
Certainly did a great job. Now, you're now doing an X-Factor book, I believe.
X-Force.
X-Force.
Yeah.
X-Force. That's
Everyone confuses them.
Yeah,
Factor Force.
How
Man.
many X books do we have?
I
Do
think
you
there's
know?
like 8, 10 now. I mean, everything.
Yeah, that's not going to blow up in our faces in a couple of years.
And they got,
Yeah.
there's the team books, and then each member of the team has their own book. So, yeah, people get all confused all the time. My own editor.
I used
So-
to know them all. I must admit, I get confused also.
Oh,
but
when there used to be one X-Men book and one Spider-Man book,
Yeah.
and there's 5 Spider-Mans and there's 5 X-Men, so it's confusing.
when we get a good thing, we don't let it go.
That's
do we?
right. No.
But anyway, the getting started as a pro, then you didn't have too tough a time. I mean, the minute somebody really saw your work, they were able to recognize it was good, and you did get started.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's just terrific. It's an unusual story, but it's a great one. But you must have other interests too. Now, besides comics, I hear that you're big in basketball.
No, I'm not. I'm big at
big
trying
fan.
to play
A
basketball.
big
I'm a big fan, but
Yeah.
I don't want to get on the court and make a fool of myself with anybody.
Do you go for much exercise and sports?
Actually, with being an artist as a living, when I first got into comics, I would just sit at my desk and draw and do the work. And you get easily distracted. If you didn't want to draw the page, I found that I'd go and sit and watch TV for a while, or I'd go and I'd eat a Snickers bar or 6. And eventually, I was like, wow, I'm not getting much healthier this way. So I think, yeah, you've got to get out and exercise. And I always try and make it a nice blend of a day. Get out and do something, that's exercise every day, because you're
You
just
can't
sitting
sit
there
over
drawing.
that board all the
No,
time.
not all. No.
Yeah, I think with I forget which artist it was, but his retinas started to detach because his work was so detailed that he was just hunched over and just focusing his eyes constantly on his own artwork, that it started to mess with his eyeballs really badly. And just hunching over a desk like that is just not good for you at all. And when I was a lot healthier, when I was like stuck on a paragraph, I would go out and take a walk. Haven't done that in a little while. Need to start that up again, because as you can tell, my breathing is labored just from sitting here, and that is not a good thing at all.
Yeah, I used to be that way about writing. You just can't sit over a typewriter and then later a computer all day long. You have to find other things to do. So I decided to interview artists.
There you go. Break up your day.
And boy, you can tell you're an artist. You haven't let go of that pencil
Yeah, I
since
know,
you
I
said
gripped
that.
this-
And I want to
it's
tell
my
you, if you
security
keep
one.
doodling, I want that page autographed before we
Okay,
go.
okay.
Okay,
That's a deal. That's a deal.
promise. Now, let me ask you something else. And I think this would be interesting. Oh, by the way, I just want to let the world out there know that before this is over, we're going to see Rob doing some drawing, but we're saving the best for the last.
Oh, okay. We're going to do that last.
So tell me, how do you feel about comic strips themselves? What do you think makes one comic book story better than another? What is it that makes your X-Men outsell Joe Blow's something else?
You know what? I think I've thought about this a lot sometimes. You go, why is this doing better than this particular book? I think it's the people who really, they take the time and the care and they put the effort into it. I think anything you do, once you put the effort into it, and especially something like this, producing 22 pages of artwork on a monthly basis is no walk in the park. You have to constantly, and to do it month after month after month, it's like you have to constantly recreate yourself, come up with something new, because if you don't, your readers are going to get bored, your fans are going to get bored, and they're going to move on to something else that has effort put into it, has created, if you become lazy with your product, it's going to result in the readers, a disinterest on their part.
One thing that a lot of people don't realize, today, comic book stories have become so complex with plots and subplots and subtle characterization that a complete comic book story is almost like a motion picture.
Yes.
And if you think about it, people like yourself are doing a minimum of 12 comic book stories a year. Well, that's like doing 12 motion pictures a year, which nobody can do.
Definitely.
And so the amount of creativity that's required is enormous. And
I feel like it can be both a good thing and a bad thing. I was doing an interview with Genuine Comics yesterday, and I mentioned that one of the comics that got me back into reading comic books was Watchmen. And Watchmen is a good series, don't get me wrong. However, I also said that I would never recommend Watchmen as a first-time read for like a first-time comic book reader because it is so dense. It is such a dense story. And I wouldn't want people's first impression of comic books being like, oh yeah, read this giant encyclopedia that has all sorts of nuances in it, and you have to pay attention to everything because literally everything is important for you to figure it all out. And most people don't want that. Most people would probably want something like Daredevil, the Man Without Fear. That Frank Miller miniseries. He didn't draw it, he wrote it. Or say, even trying to think of something good. I'm looking at my bookshelf while I'm thinking of it. Or even something like The Crow, where not too complicated of a story, but still it pulls you in. It just grabs you by the neck and it pulls you into the story. And you don't even need to have to pay attention to every single minute detail. You just need to get the basic beats and you can understand everything. So there's value in stuff that is dense and is complicated, but there's also value in just fun popcorn comic books, in my opinion.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, you didn't. It's a great point because a lot of people don't. Sometimes, I swear, I come in contact with this all the...
Alright, so I think we'll go ahead and finish this interview. Alright, I think this is the one where we get into the drawing.
time people meet you and they ask you what you do for a living and you tell them you're a cartoonist and then they again say, well, what do you do for a living? And I think people don't...
You mean you get paid just to draw pictures?
No, I think people open up their Sunday funnies or go buy that comic off the rack or see them and think that some machine produces this or some race of people called cartoonists. You
Oh my god, he predicted AI!
know, come up with this. It's like
they're mutants.
You draw comics for a living. It's like they can't really grasp it. It's not something they can grasp, because it's not something they're familiar with. Doctors, plenty of doctors. Lawyers, you've met some in your lifetime. Cartoonists, they're like this weird breed of people think, and they can't
I mean, is he wrong though? At this point, I have come to the conclusion all comic book people are weird. All of them are weird, including me, including all the other indie people. We're all weird. It's just pick your poison when it comes to weird. So.
Like I said, I've just always felt that people think that some machine churns all this out. You know,
it's a funny thing about comic books. They've changed so in recent years. They've gotten more respect. I remember when I first started, and we're going back a few centuries ago, but I'd be at a cocktail party with my wife, and someone would come over and say, hello, what do you do for a living? And I knew the reaction I would get, so I would say, well, I'm a writer, and I would try to walk away, but, they'd grab me and, what do you write?
Exactly.
And I still tried to fudge it. I'd say, stories for children. Grab me again. What kind of stories? Where are they published? Oh, in magazines. What kind of magazine? And finally I had to say, comic books. And suddenly the hand would come off my shoulder and they'd walk away.
Exactly, because it's like they didn't understand or they don't take it seriously.
But now I go to a party and everybody pushes past Steven Spielberg.
Oh, definitely. Where's Stan Lee?
That's right. And hey, there's a guy who works in comics.
That's
and
right.
all around.
That's
It's
right.
a whole different thing.
That's right.
So anyway, I want to get back to what you said. You were saying that you got to work hard and you have to take it seriously, but you and I know it's got to be more than that because there are a lot of artists and writers who work hard, who take it seriously, who give it their best shot, but they still don't do things that are big winners. So I'm waiting for you to say, and you know what I'm waiting for you to say.
I don't want to sound, it's like,
you gotta
I don't want
say
to sound like a comics philosopher or whatever, but, I think it boils down to this, oh boy, it's personal vision. I think what you look at the different artists that I liked a lot, there were certain signature things they did all the time, They knew, it was like there was a formula to what they were doing. They had a personal formula, a personal vision, And you saw that on the page. They felt very strongly about what you're doing. That's where I think the effort and the interest gets into it. I think there's people here who they would be just as happy to draw, you know, just the same old story of Spider-Man month in and month out and grab the paycheck, and they're getting to be able to draw. They're drawing. They're having fun drawing, but they don't want to do much more than, you know, kind of draw for a living. They're getting to draw for a living. I think the guys that stand out are the guys that they just, it's so into them, it's bursting out of their head. You know, I mean, there's always new ideas. When I talk to my editors at Marvel or anyone I'm working with creatively, they always say, you know, slow down, because I'll get ahead of myself and they'll say, wait, we have to take care of these 6 points before you bring up 6 more points, because you just want to, you know, when you have good ideas, you want to cram them all at once. You want to go, oh man, I want to show the kid this month too. You know,
One thing we forgot to mention.
There is something to that where there is the artist who just wants to make the paycheck, but then there's the artist who wants to push themselves. The artist who wants to push themselves in a direction where they can explore new moods, they can explore new perspective, explore new character designs. And those are the ones who are inevitably going to be the ones that will stand out. Like, take Jack Kirby. Like, Jack Kirby did not start out creating the Fantastic Four or Iron Man and all that. He started out with just like working in a regular newspaper setting, and then he just eventually just kept pushing himself, and now he is considered one of the greats in comic books. Same with Steve Ditko, same with Todd McFarlane and all of that. And so there is something in there, yeah.
Mention, you also do your own plots, don't you?
Yeah, I do all the plots.
So you not only draw the strip, but you come up with the idea for the story.
It's writing the story. I don't feel that I've ever been like a wordsmith. I mean, I have a tendency to stutter and get.
I know you're doing pretty good now.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate the idea that you're showing me up, but we'll talk about that later.
But anyway, so I figured, why not let somebody who's better with that handle that? And Marvel.
So someone else puts in the dialogue and the captions.
Yeah.
You come up with the basic plot. You draw it, and then somebody puts in the words you read on the page.
And you know what? I have no desire.
So he basically does 2/3 of the Marvel method.
Or maybe one day I'll get real, you know, a whole bunch of courage up and put words in their mouth. But I think that would just probably ruin the picture as a whole. Right now, what I'm good at is coming up with plots and creating stories and situations. But if I had to be the guy who put the words in their mouth to talk and speak, it'd be gibberish.
Now let me just say something else. If anybody out there is wondering, why are we listening to this man's philosophy? What does he know that's more than anyone else? There's one little fact I forgot to mention, which I think is of more than passing interest. Your newest comic book,
X-Force.
How many copies would you say it looks like it's going to sell?
We're, again, very fortunate. It did very well. I think it sold 3.7 copies, and they sold out, and they had
3.7 what?
Million. Oh, yeah, million. Sorry.
I think that's
what is the unit, boys? But I guess I'm just so baffled because I'm so used to seeing the sales numbers be like 50,000 or maybe 60,000 or something like that. And the fact that it could be like 3.7 million, like that's what the numbers looked like back then. It just goes to show, wow, comic books are really not as profitable as they used to be. Well, either that or we're just not figuring out the best method in order to get our comic books out there. Because I do feel like there are kids who would still want to read comic books. Because I'm sure even the kids will want to put down the screen at least once. And I also feel like we need to bring comic books back for kids because it'll help encourage, reading and following storylines and empathy so they're not glued onto skibbity fucking toilet.
Important key word, don't you?
3.7 million copies, and then there was another 1.5 added on that. It came out above 5 million copies.
More than 5 million copies.
Yeah, and you know what? It's weird. You just kind of hear that, and it didn't really faze me until a few weeks later. I read about this band who their record company was really happy about them selling 1 million copies because they got I think platinum or something like that, gold, platinum, silver, bronze. And then you kind of go, wow, that's a lot of comics to sell.
You're going uranium.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
But
I really don't
I
know.
think it's even more than a lot of comic books. I think that is more than any comic book have ever sold since time began.
For now.
All right.
For now.
Oh, well, we'll break your record next week,
Oh,
probably.
and that's their
it'll
goal.
probably be you
Yeah.
who breaks it.
No.
But I mean, it's a phenomenal, fantastic thing to sell that many million comic books.
It was a surprise. It was,
And that's why I'm listening with rapt attention, and I want
Oh,
to
come
learn
on.
what I can
You've sold,
about what makes
if we tallied up everything you've sold, it'd be in the billions. So,
Yeah, but it was over a period of years and a lot of issues.
yeah, well.
It isn't fair to torture the viewer.
Not to humble brag, but
Any longer. I mean, sitting here with you this way, it's like I'm with the world's greatest, or one of the world's greatest pianists, and I'm not letting him play the piano. Or I'm with one of the world's great magicians and not letting him do a trick. I mean, here's a guy whose artwork is totally fantastic and phenomenal, and we haven't let you draw yet, and we're going to rectify that right
Okay.
now. How about coming over to that drawing board over there and showing everybody what it is we're talking
Okay,
about?
let's do it.
Terrific.
All right.
I have a feeling that our viewers would probably love to see you create a brand new character in front of their eyes.
Okay,
Think
exclusively.
you're up to it?
Exclusively on this show. Yeah, yeah.
is this the one where they bring in Farland at some point? Yeah, I think this is it, and where he's gonna come in at the next episode.
Terrific.
As a matter of fact, the other day, I'm just going to start right now.
How do you start with a new character? What do you think of first? The name?
Yeah, the name. I think the name is really important. Kids don't get excited over, Petunia Man or Milkman. That they want the Hulk or Cable
Milkman sounds like it could be very dirty very quickly.
or this new name I got for this guy. His name is Die Hard.
Die Hard.
And it
Oh,
sounds
sensational.
deadly. Sounds deadly. I think the kids would like him. So first of all, we give
Wait
him
till
that
Bruce
standard.
Willis gets after you.
Oh, yeah. He'll be a big fan of this character.
Okay. So
okay.
you know
I
you're going to
cannot
call
see
him
the
Die
sketches.
Hard.
Oh,
now,
wait,
once
they're
you've
there.
got the name,
Okay.
what do you do?
I then try and give a visual that goes along with that name. Something like I already said, Die Hard seems to be like a deadly type name. You'd think of something, Die Hard.
Doesn't sound like a cream puff at all.
No, exactly. So anyway, so we're sitting here and we're drawing him. And I've got about the basics down here, and I'll go to ink right now.
I noticed that all these heroic characters, they kind of stand like this, bow-legged with their arms like that, right?
Oh, sure. That's showing how tough they are.
That's right.
How wide they can swing. And
I wonder
how
if I
far
would look
apart.
tough if I stood like that. I don't know.
Oh, you gotta flex your muscles, Stan.
But the drawings sure look that way.
Okay, so.
Now, do you, in your mind now, know what he's going to look like? Are you just drawing this according to a picture you've already got in your mind?
Exactly. Something like I said, he'll be a tough guy. And first of all, his face. His face.
Gotta have a face.
Yeah, gotta have a face. And this face,
It'd be weird if he didn't have a face.
we have this big jet black stripe down the middle here. And it's mysterious. You can't see his face.
That's pretty mysterious.
And maybe we'll never show his face. So the kids will always wonder, who is this guy? And so there he's got his, in black. Black kind of says something. Maybe we'll make him all black and red or something like that.
That's what I like about your drawings. They all make a statement in some way.
Okay, and then we're going to give him the chest right here.
So there's a big black vertical line going down the face between the eyes, covering the nose and where the mouth would be.
So
right?
far. And right now I'm just going to go out and underline and outline what I've kind of got down as his anatomy, his figure.
And you put it in very lightly in pencil first, just to give yourself a guide.
Yeah, just a guideline.
I noticed
do
one
most
thing
of the
about
stuff.
your drawings. You don't finish a line very often. You draw in a staccato way. You draw a little bit, then another little bit, then another little bit. You leave spaces between the lines. That's very interesting.
Stan, that's one of my trade secrets.
Really?
Break up the lines. Yeah,
Well,
we
it's
don't
only you
want
and me
them to know.
talking. You can talk about it.
Okay, let's see. It's safe with us, I hope. Okay, so here, I'm going through, got his anatomy pretty much down. Got him some strength to his figure. Again.
Yeah, I'd say he looks pretty strong.
Okay, we're almost done here. We got the legs done, give him some multiple muscles in his legs. Sometimes, the fans go, where do they get all that muscle? They drink their milk every morning. They're strong guys.
You'd be okay if you didn't draw so slowly, I think.
It's a comic book, just accept it.
You'd really be.
Yeah. I got to draw faster. That's my new goal for the new.
Well, you draw a
upcoming
minimum
year.
of 20 some odd pages a month, right?
Yeah, and
minimum.
That's no walk in the park. I mean, it takes some effort.
It's really incredible. You draw it in pencil, then you draw it in ink.
Yeah.
That's after you've plotted the story.
Yeah, after I've written the story, and then I lightly sketch it out, and then we go to ink. Okay, so we've got his figure down.
Okay.
Okay, so let's give him some gear.
Now this is the exciting part, putting the costume on, right?
Yep. And we'll give him some gear. And
You
'cause I
always-
always liked gear when I was a kid.
Yeah, who doesn't? You always seem to throw something around the shoulders, which
Yeah,
is pretty
it's-
dramatic.
It's a fashion statement.
Yeah.
So we're giving him a fashion statement here. Make it some high-tech mumbo jumbo. Give him some more lines. Looks like more technology, more hardware.
My wife would say she loves the way you accessorize these guys.
Yeah, they're definite fashion plates. Okay, so now I'm going through giving a little more muscle. Okay, we've got some stuff on his shoulders here. Now we got to give him some kind of cut for his costume. Okay, we'll start with his shoulders here, and we'll go over here, and then we'll cut down. Okay.
I wonder how many. I don't know if I have many artists that follow me, but how many of you guys have watched this old series, the Comic Book Greats, and look forward to the drawing sections to see exactly how they did it? Because this is a very interesting process to watch.
Do something like that.
Like, you can dislike Rob Liefeld's style all you want, but it is kind of fascinating to watch him do it and watch the decisions he makes live as he does it.
Uh-huh.
Then we'll cut in here. And let's see, we'll do this. I'll blacken all this in so it'll be clear to see in just a second. And
It'll have a totally different look by the time you blacken it in.
Yeah.
I would have a feeling, looking at him, that he's more physical than cerebral. Is that's
I
just a
think
wild
so.
guess?
Yeah, I
Would you
think
say
so. Yeah, I think that'd be safe to say. So, okay, see, we got him the lines under the eyes, kind of makes him look mad. We'll give him some little ankle. Here, let's give him a guy named Die Hard. Should be able to fly around, so we can fly down on the people and swat them. So there, he's got some jet
This
stuff
is what
here.
enables him to fly. These are little jets, are they?
Yeah.
I should have known that.
Okay, so we're giving him his neck thing.
What would his personality be, would you say?
Wouldn't talk much. Kind of guy that gets the job done. Doesn't
Clint
sit around.
Eastwoody?
Very much
Kind
so.
of like
yeah.
Stan Lee? And
Oh, definitely.
Real rugged and
Definitely.
strong,
Very,
silent.
very
I
much
see
in that mold of Stan
Sure, I
Lee,
can
Arnold
see that.
Schwarzenegger,
Yeah.
Bronson,
Arnie, Stan, and Charlie.
and Die Hard.
And Die Hard.
Okay, here, we're just going to go through real quick.
Does he have a special superpower? Should have been my first
He's
question.
got it all. He can do anything.
Really?
He can fly.
That's
he can,
not a bad talent.
He's strong. Definitely comes in handy.
He
Now,
flies,
He
he's strong.
flies. He can. Let's say he's got super strength. Can lift things, throw them at people, throw cars,
I'm
throw
almost
buildings.
afraid to ask the next question. I hope he's a good guy.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, thank
definitely,
goodness.
Definitely on the side of good.
Uh-huh.
Because there's too many bad guys out there, and the good guys need to be more powerful.
I would say
therefore.
so. We need a
Okay,
lot of diehards
so-
around.
I think
So we're
the
going through,
90s
we're
was
giving the
when
highlights.
they brought in the
Give
morally
him a
gray
little
hero.
black shines. Give him more detail. More detail in the world.
Well, I should specify that. It was like the late 70s when they started bringing in the morally gray hero. The 80s really expanded on that, and the 90s just took it to the extreme.
Work. Okay.
It seems
Okay.
you start with a thin pencil, then you get a thicker little black marker, then you get a very heavy marker. What'll the next thing you use be? A paintbrush?
Get some colored markers if we had some.
Really?
Go throw some
Oh,
color
sorry,
in there.
we don't.
Oh yeah. So there
For
we go.
shame, Stan, not providing color markers for your guest. For shame.
And okay. Now I'm gonna go in. Actually, okay, he's got his chest. We've got all this stuff covered. Let's see. Oh, got to blacken his foot in. And there. Now we got a new character. Named
Die
Die Hard. Okay.
You letter also. Is
Oh.
there no end to your talents?
I can talk and
I
letter.
used to letter like that. I love that kind of lettering.
Did you? I think
There's
yeah,
probably a
pretty
name for it, and I don't know what it is, but I love that style.
Amateur.
Yeah, maybe that's why
There
I
you
love
go.
it.
Die Hard. Okay, why don't we put him through, we'll put him through some paces here. But let's see, does he any more gear? Put some more shine.
Yeah, he doesn't have as much gear as you usually put on, does he?
Yeah, if he's going to
I mean,
fly
just
around.
a couple
you know
of
what,
shoulder things is all
a couple
I see.
shoulder things, some wrist things over here. We gave
Well,
him
you
some
didn't
wrist things.
accentuate that. Now
right
they're
here.
getting a little more definite.
Okay, so there we got that. And these are fists, kids. This is what he's going to punch you with.
Right. And he's not wearing any type of rifles or guns?
No,
or
not this guy. He's
gadgets?
strictly physical. Now, if I was going to create like a more commando type guy, like say, we'll just create a more commando type guy. Go over here. Okay, we'll have this guy. Put him in another strong stance while I'm carrying a
there
big
he
gun.
goes.
Do you have a name for him?
Let's
Joe
call
Commando?
him. Let's call him Cross.
How do you spell it?
CROSS.
All right, Cross.
Okay. Put his eyes in
I
here.
assume he's always angry.
He's not a happy guy.
No.
I mean,
They're
I
never
should
happy,
probably.
are they? Have you
no,
noticed
they're all
that?
pretty,
They're
pretty
never
unhappy.
happy.
Well, what they do isn't easy, and it's not, you know. It's not
I
a
think
nice
since
job.
Howard the Duck.
All right, so we got that. And let's see if we can find that very funny video where... All right. All right. We're going to have to reopen YouTube on another tab. Oh, stop it. Bad. Bad. There we are. The infamous clip with McFarlane.
We'll try to explain our thinking on how we're coming across and why we're doing overkill the
You
way it
can
is.
think and draw at the
Hey,
same time?
Yeah, and especially if it's going to be overkill, his equipment's got to be overkill as well.
Oh, heck yeah.
Always
Okay, here.
remember, he's tough, but he's not violent.
Okay, along those lines, he's got the biggest shoulder pads ever existed. It's like
I
this-
figured he would.
this chest.
Okay, I'm going to give him some big knee pads here, because a guy like him that's got some armor and got some guns and
Has to
stuff
have
like
knee
that
pads.
is going to.
Boy, he looks grim, doesn't he?
Kids, you know, I mean, the kids like the dark, moody stuff. I mean,
They seem
you know,
to.
I mean, you're.
But I have a question I've been wanting to ask you guys. How long does it take these people to get dressed? These kind of characters.
Who says
that you
they
draw?
undress?
I mean, there's something they have to get out quickly to save.
Now there is a very interesting question. Do they get undressed? I know there's some like joke pictures of Judge Dredd where he's in bed and he still has the helmet on, like he refuses to take the helmet off. It's as a gag, but still.
Save the world, but it takes them an hour and a half to get into all of this stuff
That's
if
right.
they work fast.
That's right. Getting into the costume is like going to the bathroom in comic books. You never show it, but you assume that Superman and Batman and Spider-Man actually do go and urinate every now and then,
You're
right?
right, but you never do show it, do you?
No.
But you do show, very often you show people getting dressed, especially women. I seem to recall that now.
Yeah,
and
no,
then.
okay,
You draw
listen.
hands? Are you into hands?
Oh,
really?
yeah, I'm the best.
You do hands?
But why don't we give them here wires coming out?
That is the thing with McFarlane. McFarlane can do hands. It's just feet that he has a little bit of a tricky. Why is it always feet with artists? I mean, hands are pretty complicated, but some artists can do hands pretty okay. But feet seems to be like the Achilles heel of the artist.
Out here, coming
Oh,
down. Up.
they
the
love
kids,
that
the kids
stuff.
love wiring.
The wires
yeah,
that he'll
they do.
trip
Why
over
don't
when
we
he's
invite-
running.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Hey, you draw good wires.
Oh.
I think I saw this years ago. You probably have assimilating knowledge. You probably have this. This clip goes viral every once in a while, and it's both neat and hilarious to watch at the same time.
Does he have a double identity? Is he really a meek accountant in real life?
Who else could he be besides Overkill?
Well, I mean, what if, when he takes off all these clothes, is he a
I don't.
97-pound
Do you see
weakling?
him taking rough fist? Okay.
Okay.
His thumb. He would have 3 different cannons
Different,
that are
okay.
facing you for the large kapui. So right here, they could be like missile launchers or whatever, but he's gonna have those right over here.
What
And
makes
this
you
guy's
make
alive,
those
too.
value judgments? Why only 3? He's got 4 knuckles.
'Cause
the reader's
And then
crazy.
this-
Why does he have more on that
Why does Wolverine only have 3 blades instead of 4?
side than that side?
No.
For the sake of our unseen viewers, is this really the type of thought process that you guys go through when you
Yes.
create characters?
Except for we have more than 20 minutes.
This is probably longer than you usually
We do.
take. Well, I think I've
Oh
got...
my god, that is a shade! That's a shade. That is a shade.
to say seriously, which isn't easy for me to do, but I think it's very impressive that in a matter of 20 minutes you guys could come up with something like this. I mean, bad as it is, it's still impressive.
I think this is after the Rob Liefeld fallout with Stan Lee.
That you were able to do it this quickly.
Yeah, that's a cool logo. That
Rob,
is really
didn't you
cool.
promise that you would draw and we would do the talking? And when
sorry,
you
I'm
grow
sorry.
up a little more, you
Okay.
know, we'll let you in there with the grown-ups.
Well, when you were creating characters, Stan, what was the process back then? I mean, because Rob and I right now, we do our own writing and our own drawing. We don't collaborate with anybody anymore. So
That's the problem, and I've been meaning to talk to you guys about that. Boy, he...
Oh. Oh my god. Yeah, this is definitely after the fallout. Woo.
He is one grim-looking guy. There's no way this man can move. He's got to have a power to defy gravity, I would say, just looking at
He's
him.
a tank. I mean, what do you think? I mean,
Now, the funniest thing would be if you say that these are jets and he's the fastest man alive. That and the way you have him, we've got to justify all of this paraphernalia somehow.
okay.
I don't know that you're really doing my character right. It's all right, I guess, for a bunch
Stan.
of beginners.
Overkill
I
him.
just want you to, we have a minute
Oh,
and a half
the
or so.
foot.
I want to tighten those feet.
Okay.
All right, guys?
Okay. Give him an ankle bone
Oh no, the greatest challenge.
here, an ankle bone here.
I think it takes you longer to sign your name than
Heck
to draw
yeah.
a picture. You know?
It is. I'm gonna step out. Okay.
Incidentally, you guys have ruined us. We've decided to give up comics and we're going into showbiz.
Oh, it's almost painful how passive aggressive that was. Oh, but yeah, I guess we're about 4 minutes out till closing time anyways, and most of the interviews are probably going to be much longer than that, so we'll go ahead and we'll end the stream here. If you want a say in the voting of what artist I'll comment on next, you can visit I am here on X at Heather_Feely. I will post polls for which artist I'll cover for next on the Monday streams. So follow me on there so you can keep track with what I'm doing. Oh, thank you, Assimilating Knowledge. Thank you for the nice stream. Thank you. But yeah, you can follow me on here. And if you liked the stream, you can like and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye.